Welcome to Drive Car of the Year 2023. One of our favourite segments, this one, Best Off-Road SUV. We've moved these vehicles from our previous test facility right here into their natural environment. And we've got some pretty serious contenders in this category this year as well. A previous winner of one of our off-road segments, the Land Rover Defender, doesn't get much more legendary in off-road circles than anything with a Land Rover badge, and certainly a Defender. Next to me, Jeep Grand Cherokee, another one that is synonymous with off-road performance. And behind me, you've got the all-new Everest. Even though it's all new, it's got some pretty genuine off-road credibility as well. Let's find out which one's the winner.
Drive Car of the Year is our annual culmination of testing hundreds of cars. We get them all in together to see which one is the best in show. Our editorially independent testing goes through contenders inside and out, on-road and dynamically in a safe environment. For this off-road SUV segment, we focused on off-road capability, but also comfort, compliance, technology and the quality of the cabin.
We're out here with one of our judges, Justin. Justin, the Everest really impressed us this year. We expected it to, but it was even better than we thought. What did the judges like about it the most?
Well, it's interesting that, Trent. This is the cheapest car we have here today, but it certainly didn't feel that way out on the tracks. Something else we absolutely love about it too is that new V6 powertrain. The old 4-cylinder was okay, but this new one is exceptional.
The next generation Ford Everest was co-developed with the new Ranger and Ranger Raptor and has a lot in common in terms of new technology, powertrain and chassis elements. Using a Watts linkage live rear axle and independent front suspension, the Ford Everest felt competent and capable on our off-road challenges, despite lacking the height-adjustable air suspension of the competition. Off-road gearing and powertrain calibration feels very good, and the locking rear differential is always a good ally to have. The V6 in particular feels unstressed and composed, with plenty of torque available. Off-road traction control isn't as slick and effective as the others, however, but common sense 18-inch alloy wheels with optional half-decent all-terrain tyres do help in a big way. The Everest also scores points for being the cheapest of these three by a significant margin, costing $58,290 before on-road costs in its most basic four-wheel drive form. The interior is well designed, functional and comfortable, and there is a 3.5-tonne braked towing capacity and a payload of between 658 and 733 kilos, depending on specification.
Justin, Jeep Grand Cherokee, one of the most legendary nameplates off-road, but it's fair to say that the judges discovered that this doesn't quite ultimately have the same ability off-road as the other two.
No, that's right, mate. The all-new Cherokee is a great thing, but it's more of a family-focused SUV in this generation. We also have the long wheelbase version here, which did cause some issues out on the tracks. However, the adjustable suspension did save it, and it's probably a good choice for a young family or a large family.
This new generation Jeep Grand Cherokee adopts a more road-focused platform that is derived from Alfa Romeo and is used in the Stelvio SUV. This updated model moves the game forward for Jeep in many respects, including technology, safety, interior and overall refinement. It's also back in the 7-seat game with this long wheelbase L model. And it is big. This is the longest of the three, and it's got the largest boot and third row on test. However, this new generation drops the option of diesel power, instead getting only a carryover 3.6-litre petrol V6 engine. And while this powertrain is okay, it does lack torque and feels peaky at times off-road. Summit Reserve specification gains a low-range transfer case and height-adjustable air suspension on one hand, but it gets 21-inch alloy wheels and no locking differentials on the other. Air suspension helps with ground clearance, but there is little articulation on offer. The Jeep did seem to scramble at times when the other vehicles felt a little bit more planted, and the payloads and towing capacities are off the pace for this Jeep as well.
Justin, Land Rover Defender, get the sirens out, get the warning chimes out, but surprise, surprise, this is particularly good off-road.
Mate, it's an absolute gem off-road. We had a great time in this car. The calibration, the electronic suite is unbelievable. That 8-speed transmission too is excellent, geared really low as well, which is great. But on top of that all, mate, it comes in multiple models, short wheelbase, medium wheelbase, long. There's a Defender to do whatever you want, which we love personally.
The The Land Rover Defender is a very impressive vehicle off-road. It's a technological powerhouse overall, using a sophisticated clutch-based four-wheel drive setup and impressively accurate off-road traction control system to give high levels of control and confidence from behind the wheel. Combine that with class-leading levels of ground clearance, good articulation through the independent and cross-linked air suspension, 32-inch tyre diameter, and impressive approach and departure angles, this Defender can traverse obstacles that others simply cannot even attempt. The worst thing about the Defender for off-road usage is the wheel selection, with 19 and 20-inch wheels being the most common choice. 18s are possible, either as standard fare or from the aftermarket, but not all specification grades can do this. The Defender wins the off-road specs battle on paper, with the best-in-class wading depth of 900mm when fitted with air suspension. It also has the best approach, departure and ramp over angles as well as ground clearance. This comes from a combination of large tyre diameter and a height-adjustable independent suspension all round. This highly sophisticated suspension setup also felt the most composed and stable when working hard off-road. While the Jeep Grand Cherokee did have better on-paper ground clearance in comparison to the Ford Everest, that is thanks to the air suspension, we felt more confident on the harder tracks in the Ford. This comes from a better approach and departure angle, as well as more stability and articulation available from the suspension.
And the winner is the Land Rover Defender. Two words come to mind when we think about this four-wheel drive: consummate, all-rounder. This thing is as refined on-road as it is incredibly capable off-road. It does justice to the Defender nameplate, and it's lost none of its off-road capability.
The Defender wins its second gong in 2023 in this off-road SUV segment. It's got a unanimous vote across the judging panel. This was followed on by the impressive Ford Everest, while the Jeep Grand Cherokee came in last.
For me, the Defender wins simply because of how good it is off-road. It's supremely capable and so easy to drive, even over the rougher stuff.
The Land Rover Defender has been an absolute treat out here in the off-road environment. Probably that's one of its best things, is how easy it is to drive. Literally pop behind the wheel and off you go, select low range if you need to, and it's hard to get it wrong. Something else great is the fact you can have a short or a long wheelbase car, or even a V8 too. I mean, there's plenty of options out there for everyone who's interested in a Land Rover Defender.
If I told you I was sitting in a Land Rover and I told you that it was really quite premium inside the cabin, you'd hardly be surprised, because that's what we expect of the brand. And yet the judges have made particular note that the Defender sits above the competition in regard to interior refinement, cabin quality, and the general driving experience. From behind the wheel, it's very driver focused, as we've come to expect with Land Rover off-road vehicles. It's all about the driver, positioning the driver in the cabin, plenty of adjustment in the seat, excellent visibility, especially when you're off-road. The technology that it has, whether it's the infotainment or the off-road specific driving modes and technology, is very easy to understand and easy to access. Now, when we did the off-road testing, especially the challenging hill climb, we went with 3 judges in the cabin. And that's an important thing to note, because if you move over to the passenger seat, or indeed into the second row, the judges remarked how comfortable the Defender was in really hardcore, challenging off-road situations. Not every four-wheel drive, regardless of how expensive they are, can claim that, and yet the Defender, because of how technologically advanced it is, remains comfortable at all times. To say that this is effectively one of the best off-roaders out there, it's absolutely the case. The judges are well aware that when you speak to people who spend a lot of time off-road touring, one thing is for sure and certain: they rarely do it alone. And so that means passenger comfort is really important. When you move into the second row of the Defender, what was true of the front row remains the case back here. First of all, there's an incredible amount of room and it's comfortable. So that's my driving position. You can see how much room I've got. Shoulder room is really good too, as is headroom. Very tall roofline, which means you've got a lot of headroom. The backrest is adjustable, so you can set that where you like it as well. The floor is almost flat through here, which is particularly impressive given the fact that this has got a four-wheel drive line beneath it, so that's really good design execution. You've got all the usual charging, vents and controls in this particular spec. It's generally very comfortable back here, and the other thing that I like, especially if you're on a longer road trip to get to where you're doing your off-road, which, let's face it, most of us have to do, is the visibility. You don't feel like you're buried down in here behind the seats. You've got really good visibility in all areas, and this is a really, really comfortable option for family off-roaders. Now, I don't always love, and the judges don't always love either, a soft luggage cover like that. However, in the case of the Land Rover, it's probably a smart move because this is going to get taken in and out a lot, and it's a lot easier to fold this up and store it if you've got all your gear packed in here and you don't want it in the way. Underneath it, what I think is most clever is the choice of materials. This is obviously a 7-seater that we've got here, but the durable rubber finish here, it's non-slip, it's very tough back here, and it doesn't look like it's going to get damaged easily. Also, nice tall loading openings so that you can get things in and out quite easily. And another thing the judges noted, and the reason they do is because we often have to change tyres out in the bush. Not everybody likes a side hinge tailgate, but it's better getting your spare tyre off there out in the dust on a 40-degree day than it is having to crawl under there.
You've got a glut of impressive powertrain options in this Defender, with both petrol and diesel on the table. And while all do have their merits, including the base P300, which is a turbocharged 4-cylinder petrol, we would lean towards the P400 petrol or D300 diesel engines as being the pick of the range. These are both silky turbocharged 6-cylinder motors with great levels of refinement, power, torque and enjoyment.
As good as the Land Rover Defender is on-road, it's as impressive off-road. It's incredibly capable, and the way that this four-wheel drive can tackle even the gnarliest off-road climb with ease, without raising a sweat, and with everybody in the cabin remaining composed is genuinely impressive. It's comfortable, it's got very, very clever traction control systems, it does have driving modes, it's got proper low range gearing, the diff locks work well. This thing performs unbelievably well off-road, it's in its natural element, and there's absolutely no doubt that if you've got proper four-wheel driving in mind, you're going to be buying an SUV that's almost a luxury limousine to live with Monday to Friday, but then is as capable as anything else on the road on the weekends. And that's what Land Rover has done so well for so long, and it's what's impressed the judges again this year on Drive Car of the Year. It's the duality of character, it's the way this can switch from luxury on-roader to rugged off-roader without even batting an eyelid.
If you want to see more of Drive's comprehensive on-road and off-road testing, check out our video reviews on YouTube or at drive.com.au. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any of our future automotive content.